Super Mario Galaxy!
Hello! Hopefully that brought some nostalgia back. Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack is often called one of the best in gaming. So what makes it so out of this world? From epic orchestral themes to music and audio that perfectly matches the magic of space, today we're diving into how this Mario soundtrack was designed to take us through an adventure none of us ever forgot. Super Mario Galaxy is a 3D platforming game developed by Nintendo for the Wii in 2007. Players used the Wii Remote along with the nunchucks to navigate as Mario through the galaxy to save the princess, or play as a Luma, which most likely would be the 5-year-old next to their dad just pointing at the cursor at any star bits they would find and throwing them at literally anything that they could. But this game wouldn't be the game we know and love today without its amazing orchestral soundtrack. Thanks to the amazing minds of composers Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo, along with conductor Kori Hashima and audio designer Masafumi Kawamura, the soundtracks and audio for this game have touched all of our hearts and made us a part of the journey. Although there was so much music to this game due to its different locations, bosses, and triumphs, each helped to create the atmosphere, guide the player's actions, and invoke specific emotions through large orchestral arrangements and diverse sounds. The idea of the music being spacey can really be seen within the title of the theme song itself. Let's take a listen. The intro starts off very powerful and majestic with fast ascending high strings and woodwinds followed by the blast of trumpets mixed with low brass to create that big and grand feeling of lifting off into space. Once we're amongst the stars, the orchestration changes to a more peaceful setting, with harp, piano, and delayed synths being the focal point of the sound. This peaceful part loops over and over again until the player leaves the title screen and begins their adventure. The shape of the melody is pretty consistent throughout as it follows a 6-note pattern. We're introduced to the melody in the key of E flat, with the 4th note, A natural, being extra special, as it states that we are in the Lydian mode, which is commonly used for a whimsical or adventurous sound. In terms of harmony, as we enter the peaceful setting, we keep the melody and use chromatic medians to modulate in minor thirds, from B to D, as this part loops. This allows for the player to not get too tired of the loop while also adding to that spacey feel. Another great example that follows a similar style using the Lydian mode and other forms of modal mixture can be seen in Space Junk Galaxy. Starting in the key of A flat, we hear a piano arpeggiating in the open voices from its low to its high range, emphasizing space. In the melody, as well as in the arpeggiation, we hear a D natural, again signifying that here we are in the key of A flat Lydian. When the harmonic progression begins to change, we can see the use of the note G flat being played in the arpeggiations, hinting at the Mixolydian mode. Then the theme is repeated, and the piano can be noted playing an octave up, and is also being echoed by a light synth in a call and response sort of manner. And, of course, throughout the entire piece, a layer of reverb as well as delay in some of the synth instruments are added to all of the instruments to emphasize the large scale of the galaxy. Now those are just two of the many examples that this game has when it comes to making the player feel like they're exploring the galaxy solely through the music. Of course, the composers did have to think about the game's individual galaxies as well. Some of the galaxies in the game have their own little planet hub, which each has an individual characteristic to them. With this knowledge, the music has to be different as well. There are so many examples, but a great one that ventures out a bit from the classical orchestra setting is Honey Hive Galaxies.
Yes!
This level is consistent with its bee and forest theme with elements like honeycomb, flowers, and Her Majesty, the Queen Bee. Not very spacey at all, wouldn't you say? So what type of music would fit best with this galaxy? Well, the composers decided that what would fit best is a sort of bluesy-inspired track. The music prominently features blues elements, mostly in the melodic lines and in the chord progressions. We start off by hearing a 4-bar phrase that is pretty funky with its rhythmic bass line. The harmonic progression follows a simple 12-bar blues in the key of C. The melody mostly uses the chord tones, especially the dominant 7th of the chord, emphasizing that blues sound. As for instrumentation, it does change throughout the levels, but for the most part, we can hear the melody being played by the marimba, a call and response melody version with the flute, a bit of organ, a groovy bass line, and various percussions like tom-tom, maraca, and castanets. And the difference in musical style doesn't stop there. In Rosalina's Observatory, we see influences in romantic styles through composers like Strauss and Tchaikovsky, playing with a waltz type of feel. In Seaslide Galaxy, a more tropical vibe is heard, with its clever use of mixed instrumentation and diverse percussion. And of course, whenever battling Bowser, the head boss of the game, we get a lot of low brass moments that can constantly modulate higher and get faster within the levels. When writing music for games, the composer really has to think about how they can take their music to the next level. One thing that can really help with this are effects. Whether it's reverb, a filter, or working with the sound effects designer to make their musical ideas come to life, each of these can help the player feel more immersed into the game. A great example of using effects to help the player feel a part of the world can be found in Beach Bowl Galaxy. This beach-themed galaxy filled with penguins makes the player navigate through the water. So imagine that there's music playing above you. Then you decide to dive into a form or body of water. You would still be able to hear the music, but it would be sort of muffled, wouldn't it? Well, that's a very common technique used in games when players change from land to water. The music, as well as some of the audio, becomes muffled through an effect called a low-pass filter, which is one of the ways that we can accomplish this. What a low-pass filter does is it allows low frequencies to pass through and cut out the more high-pitched sounds which is a perfect way to emulate being underwater. Not only that, but the instrumentation changes as well. At first, when we're above the water, we can hear a mix of trumpet, flute, accordion, steel drums, and a bit more instruments. But when under the water, the sound becomes more round and reverby. So instruments like French horn and tuba take place, as well as some more mellow percussion like marimba. Changing things like effects and instrumentation are great ways to add to the player interactivity. But change in location or material isn't the only reason to add player interactivity into the music. Something that seems a bit more obvious but is, pretty cool is the literal movement of the player themselves is extremely effective. And when matching the sound and music to their movements, magic can happen. In this example, Mario takes on the rolling ball. And as most of us know, this galaxy honestly made some of us throw our remote out the window. I had to probably buy a couple more after this game.
Yes! Hey!
The player moves the remote to move the ball wherever, as fast or as slow as they want. Here, the music follows the player in the quirky mode of Lydian Flat 7. When the player moves, so does the music. When the player goes fast, so does the music. This can be known as tempo manipulation, and it's usually easiest through MIDI sounds. Not only that, but speeding up also raises the pitches of the progression each time. And when slowing down, instruments are slowly taken away from the full track and then slowly added again once the player catches up in pace. This is known as layering. We can notice other less obvious musically interactive parts in the game, like in the question mark switches, where stepping on a switch plays a specific tone. Or traveling space using the stars, which uses a theremin sliding in pitch whether you get closer or further from it.
Oh.
This is just scratching the surface of the game's amazing use of music and audio to create an interactive world that fully immerses its players into the galaxy. I can make a million more videos on just the harmony and use of effects as well, which might come in other videos soon. But the true way to grasp it all would be to just go ahead and play this game for yourself, Really take it all in. I really hope that this video gave you something to think about and made you want to play some awesome games. I'll see you soon when we look for star bits together. Thanks for watching!
Thank you so much for playing my game.